Well, I saw devotees once when I was 18 at a rock festival in England at Stonehenge. Every year they do a big music festival. And I saw a Harinam party. And I was so amazed. I thought, that this is, it's not of this world, you know, it's really out of this world, which it was. It moved something in my heart very profoundly. And so I kept that impression in my mind for the rest of my life. You know, the devotees were dancing around the campsite. I heard the cartels, the mridanga, and I looked outside the tent and with the flowing saffron robes. It was early morning, the sun was just up, and it just sounded so amazing. And the sight of the devotees was so amazing. So that was the first time I saw devotees. But I was a bit of a hippie, and I was meeting many people around that time that were vegetarians, and the first boyfriend I had, he had a Bhagavad Gita and a Hare Krsna record, and I remember trying to read the Gita and looking at the record cover, but I couldn't really understand much. So I had a number of encounters like that, picking up books in bookshops and looking at pictures of Prabhupada on the back of the book and wondering, who is this person? So it took a number of years after that, till I was 23. I met a devotee in Venezuela. I was traveling with a friend, and you know, just exploring different places. And then one devotee approached me on the street, and you know, anyway, started preaching to me, and he suggested that I go and live with devotees. So I lived in the mountains in Venezuela for 1 year. And after that I went to Brazil and spent a few months in a temple where they trained me up properly in chanting and morning program. I did a lot of service. Then I had to go back to my own country, England. So there was no turning back at that point, so I just carried on practicing Krishna Consciousness. But I had one small child with me along the way, so you know, it wasn't so easy to live in the temple. That's how I met devotees. And I eventually went to live in Ireland, where I spent 25 years serving in the temples in Northern Ireland, mostly in Northern Ireland, in Innisfrach and Belfast, up till a year ago. And then I started to spend more time in India to study. So that's a sort of abbreviated version of the story. A small child, I used to like, naturally I like cooking. So I tended to gravitate towards that service of cooking for devotees. Even before I moved into the temple full-time, we did Namahat programs, so I'd always like trying out new recipes. And I bought all the cookbooks, you know, Yamuna's book, Kurma's books, everything. So I would try all these different fancy things. Then when I moved in the temple, immediately I'm in the kitchen cooking for devotees. And then once I got first initiated, they said, right now you can go in the deity kitchen. So I started cooking the Raj Bhoga, evening offerings, different services, sweets, and that was on Innisfrach. So I spent like 15 years mostly cooking, and but I did also some preaching. I like to study and I would sometimes give classes and take care of guests, and you know, devotees, they have to do a bit of everything, especially in those sort of temples where there's not many devotees, so you get a lot of experience in different areas. But yeah, I like cooking, and I like dress. And then I learned to dress the deities in Belfast. I became the head pujari for 9 years, and I was dressing nearly every day. I was bathing and dressing Radha Madhava, cooking. I was doing the whole morning program and sometimes the evening program as well. So I did a lot of pujari service. So that was the training I got. I was very fortunate. That was amazing because I had 2 children. Father wasn't a devotee. So by the time I was living in the temple, I was with the 2 children. So it was always very difficult. I didn't really have a proper facility for living, but I was very much depended on to do service, you know, to keep the temple running. But somehow, because of the children, they were, you know, I wasn't given a living facility. So we lived in caravans and derelict buildings, and it's just, so I did that for a few years. You know, no electricity, and but then one point I said, it's too much. So I lived in the town for 6 months, put the kids in school, and said, oh no, I can't be away from the devotees. So we moved back again. In the summertime, the kids were off school. I moved back. I prayed to Radharani, Radhastami. Radharani, please, just do whatever you have to do. Bring me back. So within 2 weeks, we were living back there in another caravan. But even this time with no running water, you know, even more difficult. Just flopped it in the middle of a field, you know. And everyone's got their big houses and cars and 5-bedroom bathrooms, and then we're in this tiny tin box. My Guru Maharaj was going, oh my God, what are you doing? But anyway, I was cooking for the deities. I would cook for my Guru Maharaj. But then, yeah, the point where I had to make that decision to move back was very difficult, because I thought, no, I've done all this before. Why am I doing it again? Putting myself in such a difficulty. But the deities, I was sleeping that night in the temple because the kids were off school, and Govinda, he came to me. He actually came to me, and I saw his beautiful blooming face with turban and lotus eyes, and he said, don't worry, everything will be all right. And he put his hand here. So I thought, it's a delusion, you know, I must be going crazy. Maybe I'm imagining, but 3 times it happened. So then I knew. So I made a decision, and I did it with some like hesitancy, but I was like, but somehow I did it. I moved back. And then after they said, no, we need you in the temple, come, we need you to cook, because the Pujari come temple president, he wanted it out. And he said, we need you. And so I moved back onto this island, and I cooked again for another at least 2 years full time. And within that time, my daughter got married, and then I just had my small child, you know, my younger daughter. So then material life just started to fall apart, you know, gradually. But Govinda, he said, and I have a few other experiences like that, but that was the one main one that I try to remember that sometimes, that he said, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. Maybe it was imagination, but it wasn't, you know, you know, we hear like Krishna is not a material, it's not material, you know, it's not, you can't describe his form, like it's not of this world. So it was just for that moment. And I said to my friend, okay, I saw Krishna, you know. So, yeah, I know what you mean. I know. No, he was really there in the room. It was beautiful. Yes. What else? We have many adventures on this island. It's called the Hare Krsna Island, in Ireland. And you have to go on a boat to get there. The temple is on this island. It's a small island, but there's a big stretch of water. Some devotees live on the mainland side, the Grihastas. So we were in the caravan over there. They said, oh, Grihastas, you know, oh, the management is a little bit, you know, anyway, what can I say? You know, get over there. So I have to row a boat every day to get over, to cook for the deities. So that was an adventure, because sometimes you know, island, the weather is very bad and it's really windy. So this is a strait. This water, the island is on it. It's a lake, but it's actually a river running through. So it's like a strait, you know, like an ocean. And there's very rough water sometimes. When the wind comes, like storms come, you go in a boat in the middle of this water. Sometimes you can't, you don't have the strength to row, so you get blown away, you know. So sometimes you get blown down and way down, and then you shout, help, help. But somehow we managed to do it. Mostly we got across the lake, and there was many stories about getting across on these, and the boats were always leaking, you know, water's coming in, and they said, bail out, you know, and then, there was only one oar, you know, someone lost the oar and you're trying to like go like this, and yeah, the boat's going, said, yeah, but there's nobody to cook, you have to go, you know. I said, someone come, no, we can't, no one's here to come and get you. You have to come, no one's going to cook, okay, I have to do it. So, that was good fun, jumping in and out of boats all the time. It looks like the Ganga. It's like the Yamuna here, and there's an island in the middle. It's like, see the wide expanse of the Yamuna, maybe wider than, yeah, a good bit wider than that, maybe twice the width. And there's an island in the middle, so you have to row on a usually a little wooden boat, you know. So that was all like an adventure. It's easy when you're young. Well, like Krishna Prabhu said, you know, last 6 months, we got married 6 months ago, and we've been traveling to different places. Like we were in Spain, we did service there, and then we went to Puerto Rico. It took some time out, you know, but we were visiting the preaching center. There was a new preaching center near the university there. So we're looking at options of places where we can eventually settle and be engaged in some service. And we were in upstate New York with Satsvarup Maharaj. So that's a possibility we'll go back there and serve him some more. And what I see is like everywhere is a great preaching field. Although in Spain it's a farm, it's a little bit cut off, but like around New York, we were in a suburb, in a small area, countryside area, but I saw so much potential for preaching. There's one town, Hudson, and it's a bit bigger town, but for me that's something I feel like is really needed, because the world is in such a chaotic condition. Now, whatever news you hear is just becoming more and more serious, like disastrous, what's going on, like 500,000 people fleeing, you know, refugees fleeing into Bangladesh, and people being massacred, and terrorist attacks everywhere, and people are so confused, and we know the only answer is Sankirtan. And yes, so let's finish the Bhaktivedanta course. Now they're going to start Bhakti-Sarvabhauma course in Vrindavan here. Study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'm going to find out details on that, maybe for the future, to keep connected in the scriptures. Hare Krishna.